What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Gonna talk a little Gennady Golovkin, Canelo Alvarez, a fight that I am I was certain was gonna happen in September. And it's looking like there might be some trouble around the fight, but I want to talk about Gennady Golovkin and just the absolute ridiculousness coming from this guy, man. In my opinion, of course, it's my opinion. But first, man, thank you for everybody, to subscribe to the channel, supports on Venmo, on Super Chat, and Patreon. And hope you guys attend the live stream. Best way to do that is to hit the subscribe and the bell icon so that you can attend the live streams. Now, let me get into this back and forth. And Oscar De La Hoya says something that I thought, like I said, man, I don't like Oscar De La Hoya. I don't care for the dude at all. As far as, as him being a promoter. As a fighter, I thought he was a absolutely terrific fighter. But this is a time where I've got to say that I'm leaning towards agreeing with him, where he says the Golovkin rematch is dead. The Gennady Golovkin has ridiculous demands. Now, I said before all this steroid stuff went on and with Canelo, after Canelo Alvarez tested positive and Gennady Golovkin started, doing all this, really kind of acting out of character about it. And I was like, look, if Gennady Golovkin, if you don't want the fight, I mean, if you think the dude's a steroid cheat and, you think that that's unfair, then don't fight him. Go fight Derevyanchenko. You're IBF mandatory. Fight Charlo. Fight somebody else. You're the guy with all the belts. If you think that Canelo Alvarez is being underhanded, it's not just enough to say don't, to call him every name under the book and cheater and all this and all that, and then try to still fight him. Don't fight him. Stand on your ground, right? And so this is so as a result of all that, after all of this, now we're in the midst of, we find out that Canelo Alvarez gets suspended for 6 months or whatever it is. And now he's going to be able to fight. He'll be cleared in time to fight in September. But Gennady Golovkin wants a 50-50 cut of the purse. Now, let me go through this. I'll give you my thoughts on it. First of all, that's what I thought. That Gennady Golovkin was posturing with all of that complaining that he was doing because he wanted to put himself in a position to ask for more money. And that's pretty much what he's doing. So at least that's the way that I have it. And so let me go through what De La Hoya said, and then I'll come back to it. Golden Boy president. Well, actually, this is the Eric Gomez, not Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya said something else that I'll get into. He says Golden Boy Promotions president Eric Gomez, who guides the career of Mexican superstar Saul Canelo Alvarez, says the rematch with Gennady Golovkin is currently dead in the water. They were initially scheduled to fight for a second time on May 5th, but the fight was called off when Canelo tested positive for banned clenbuterol, which prompted the Nevada State Athletic Commission to suspend the Mexican star for 6 months. According to Gomez, the two sides had agreed to just about everything for a planned rematch on September 15th in Las Vegas. But things took a turn for the worse, says Gomez, when Golovkin came back with a fresh batch of demands. As of right now, it's dead, Gomez said to the press enterprise. We wasted 5-6 weeks, give or take, waiting on an answer from them. All the major deals were done. They came back on Thursday with ridiculous demands, just ridiculous. Really, to wait 5-6 weeks for that type of answer they came back with on Thursday, it's insulting. The deal, Gomez said the deal for the rematch was in place before and after it was canceled for May 5th. At the moment, Golovkin is looking for a better financial package. He believes Golovkin made these fresh demands because he's having second thoughts about the fight out of pure fear. We're moving on. I do believe Golovkin is scared because it's been one excuse after the other, Gomez said. With what they came back with on Thursday, they clearly want to kill the fight. Golden Boy has already reached out to several possible replacements like WBA champion Danny Jacobs, WBO middleweight champion Billy Joe Saunders, should he beat Martin Murray next month, and Golden Boy promoted middleweight contender Spike O'Sullivan. The first bout between Canelo and Golovkin took place in September 2017, and it ended in a controversial 12-round split draw at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. De La Hoya gets even a little more blunt about it and says, the founder of Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, stated to Boxing Scene, we're going to make, Golovkin's going to make the biggest payday of his life. He's out there dealing with the IBF, a mandatory, Sergey Derevchenko, who's 11-0. Go ahead and fight him for $1 million. Fine. So we're not waiting for Gennady Golovkin anymore. And then just the last bit of it before I discuss it all the way out, is what Gennady Golovkin's promoter's saying. And here, I don't agree with what he's saying, but I mean, he has a point. The controversy continues as it relates to the potential matchup between champion Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez. The two sides are in serious negotiations for a possible rematch on September 15th. Now the rematch is having serious issue because boxers are far apart on a monetary split. According to Loeffler, who runs GGG Promotions, Canelo is standing firm on a 65-35 split, while Golovkin wants something more fair, an even 50-50 split. Last September, Canelo and Golovkin fought to a controversial 12-round split draw at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Then Canelo got popped dirty. And Loeffler continues, I really think Canelo needs the rematch with Triple G to save his image. There was a lot of controversy with the failed drug tests and speculation Canelo took something in the first fight. Now with Canelo fully enrolled in full-time VADA testing, he needs to prove he can fight the same way. No, he doesn't. Sorry, but he doesn't. Canelo Alvarez is going to do well, is going to do good numbers because he's got a very, very big fan base, and he can prove that against several other fighters. The only difference between Gennady Golovkin and, say, Danny Jacobs or Charlo, as far as him being able to prove that he's a solid, that he's a world-class fighter, is the fact that Gennady Golovkin holds those belts. But, and I think that it would be a good thing for Canelo to do that. And that's why, I mean, from what I can see, a 65-35, I mean, I don't see what's wrong with that. That seems about right to me. It seems about right. Because Gennady Golovkin is not some tremendous, he's not some tremendous draw, but he obviously is a very good dance partner for Canelo Alvarez, and there'd be a lot of interest in the fight being made. As far as it being 50-50, if that's what Oscar De La Hoya wants to do, or Canelo Alvarez wants to do, then, I wouldn't have any issue with them giving Gennady Golovkin a 50-50 split of the revenue for the fight. But I don't see why they would have to do that. It just doesn't seem like Gennady Golovkin is that big that he really affects the numbers for Canelo Alvarez that much. Canelo Alvarez did very solid numbers with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., right? There's a chance that Canelo Alvarez might be able to go fight ask Munguia to move up. The young Mexican guy who said he's going to be moving up to 160 pounds, man. Get in there with that young lion. But I know that's not going to happen. I'm just kind of playing about that. But, look, at the end of the day, I don't really care what the monetary split of the fight is. Whatever they come to is whatever they come to, and whatever's clever, really. However, I do find it, God, I want to say verifying, or, not verifying. It verifies what my original thought was about Gennady Golovkin and all that barking that he was doing, right? He's barking and all that stuff to try to to help along his desire to make more money. Gennady Golovkin could have fought If Gennady Golovkin was interested in fighting the best fighters out there, then he wouldn't be trying to go back. He wouldn't even be trying to do the rematch with Canelo Alvarez, right? Canelo Alvarez doesn't hold any belts. Canelo Alvarez just came off of a positive drug test and a suspension for a positive drug test. So why would he want to? Why would he even want to fight Canelo Alvarez? Canelo Alvarez, other than money, has nothing to offer Gennady Golovkin. Nothing. Gennady, the only person that really has anything to offer Gennady Golovkin, other than the money, is Billy Joe Saunders, who has 160 pound belt, the WBO belt. And if he gets past Martin Murray, that's a fight I would rather see. I would much rather see Gennady Golovkin versus Billy Joe Saunders. And I wouldn't mind it if it was just on regular HBO. I think he fought David Lemieux on HBO, so I don't think that there's anything that could prevent that fight from being on HBO. And just like when he fought, Gennady Golovkin fought Vanis Martirosyan, I can turn on HBO and I can watch it for no additional charge because I'm already subscribed to the network. So from a fan perspective, the best option for me is to see unification in a belt, unification in a weight class, and that would be with Billy Joe Saunders. I have a certain affinity towards some other boxers. I like Jermall Charlo. I like Danny. I like Danny Jacobs. I like Danny Jacobs. I like him. I mean, I like Jermall Charlo. I think Deverenchenko, or go fight your mandatory. That's the other one. Go fight your mandatory, like Oscar De La Hoya said. What's wrong with that? There are literally two fights that in the middleweight division that should come before Canelo Alvarez. So while Tom Loeffler can say what Canelo needs to rebuild his image after failed drug tests, what do you care, Tom Loeffler? Why do you care what about Canelo Alvarez building up his his reputation and recovering from that? Why does he need that? He can do that against anybody. He can do that against because Canelo Alvarez doesn't even really need the belts, man. He did big numbers. He makes big numbers because he's a popular fan. He's a popular boxer with the Mexican and the Spanish speaking community. Whether I'm sure some of them like him, other probably want to see him lose. But whatever the case is, man, he's carrying the money bag. Right? So since he's carrying the money bag and he's offering you a fair deal, man, it's not like this is some deal where Anthony Joshua is offering us Eddie Hearn offering an 88-12 split, right? Like it's $100 million fight and you get 12.5. This is not like an Eddie Hearn Deontay Wilder offer. This is $100 million fight with you getting 35% of it. 35% of it. And Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin is $100 million fight. And since that's $100 million fight and he's offering you 35% of it, that means your side gets $35 million. That is a good deal. And quite honestly, I bet you money, if that was what had been offered, if that is what was offered to Deontay Wilder, when he said he wants to get, he said he'd take 60-40. And they came with 88-12. 88-12. And now we're back to 60-40. Back to asking for 60-40. That's a fight that just, they didn't want. So they super lowballed them. But that's not the case here. Gennady Golovkin, that's a fair offer. A very fair offer. And honestly, he doesn't even really need you. I mean, it is something that could, the thing that Canelo Alvarez would need from Gennady Golovkin is not to rebuild his reputation. Because honestly, man, his reputation with people that don't like him is shot and it's not coming back. Just to be real. It's shot and it's not coming back. To the people that support him, for the people that support him, they say, hey, man, he passed the hair follicle test. And there's Cambuterol in the meat in Mexico. So we're not trying to hear it. We support Canelo. That's how that's going to roll. But the thing that he could use is those belts, right? He could use that WBC belt. He could use that WBA belt. He could use that IBF belt. He could use all three of those, because then he's sitting on top of the middleweight division as the man in the middleweight division. And then he can go slip and slide and try to find a way not to fight Charlo or whatever after he beats Gennady Golovkin. Because if they do the rematch, Gennady Golovkin's going to lose. Combuterol or not. And the reason I say combuterol or not, because come on, man. We ain't going to act like, he can't get past that test. There's a whole bunch of cats get past tests. You had, what's that guy's name? Eric Molina got tested, slipped past a UCAD test, UK anti-doping. I always say UCADA because it's like Vada UCADA, but UCAD I think is how they pronounce it. And he was found clean for 3 fights, and they busted him 2 years later off of a backdated positive drug test. So people can get past him. So if Canelo Alvarez is cheating and relying on that, if that's the case, it's not going to change. He'll just find something else that you can't test positive for, because it's not on the list, right? Kind of like Povetkin and all that nonsense that went on with Povetkin and Deontay Wilder, where Povetkin was like, well, yes, I had meldonium in my system, but, I didn't. I was taking it last year, when it wasn't on the banned substance list. So all Canelo Alvarez has to do, and I'm quite sure with the type of money that he has available to him, that he can find something that'll do the same thing, but is not on the banned substance list. So whatever's clever with all that. But he does need the belts up off of Gennady Golovkin. But again, to my original point, and I'm gonna conclude with this, is that Gennady Golovkin is just as phony as he's as phony. In my opinion, he's about as phony as that is his 20 middleweight title defenses, right? And his Mexican style talk, wearing sombreros and all of that crap, man. It's just the dude's he can fight. Now, I'm not saying he's in a situation where he can't fight. He can. He's a very, very good fighter. But this is the tail end of his career. I thought he lost that first fight with Canelo Alvarez. But he just strikes me as being phony, because all of that hooping and hollering about him being a cheat and all that has just come around, to him asking for more money, for him wanting that big cash out. Because 50-50 in this thing is probably going to wind up being $50 million. Because I do believe the last fight was a $100 million fight. Somebody said that Gennady Golovkin got $20 million. Canelo got $40 million, something. I'm not sure how that works after they pay Oscar De La Hoya and they paid Loeffler. It's not like they're going to get the type of money that out of that somebody like Errol Spence Jr. would get, because Errol Spence Jr. doesn't have a promoter. He doesn't have to pay those promotional fees, whatever. But at the end of the day, man, it's a ton of dough. And Gennady Golovkin was looking for a bunch of money, and he's looking for a cash out fight, because he will, to Oscar De La Hoya's point, go fight Derevyanchenko for $1 million. It would take Gennady Golovkin 20 more fights to make his. It might take, honestly, or conservatively rather, it might take Gennady Golovkin 20 more fights or 10 more fights to earn the same amount of money he'd get for Canelo. And that's the fight he wants anyway. But again, just to be fair with it, I would say the same thing for Deontay Wilder. If Deontay Wilder if it was 65-35 for Anthony Joshua. Because 65-35 in the scenario with Deontay Wilder is a hell of a lot more than $12.5 million. Right? Now, if Gennady Golovkin had been offered 88-12, then that would be something, completely different. In that situation, he would need to say, hey, man, look, I have to sit down on my principles, man, and you're not paying me fairly. Because that is just a ridiculous, this guy's a champ. This guy, he's the champion. He's holding the belts, and they're fighting for the belts. but this isn't a mandatory, so he's kind of caught in a tough situation because it's not a mandatory. He's not the mandatory. Then he can't even go to purse bid. But if he did go to purse bid, geez. Anyway, that might be a route for him. But anyway, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.